What is up, folks? Welcome to the High Tech Podcast, where we have lots of high tech fun and hijinks. I don't know. I was trying to look for a thing. I'm Josh, one of the hosts of the High Tech Podcast, joined by my co-host William Illingworth. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
I'm doing great and feeling even better now. Literally, Josh got a text around 6 o'clock today saying, "I'm not feeling great. I don't know how this is going to go tonight."
Yeah.
And
now Will's like jazzed. He's like psyched. I like how also I've just done this whole intro without acknowledging that things look very different right now.
Surprise.
On the podcast. So if you're listening to the audio, go check out the video because we've told you to multiple times and you haven't listened to us. And that kind of seems mean. You know, like go check it. Go check it out. I'm just saying, you know.
Please, dear
like
God.
Enough people don't listen to me in my life. You know, I need the listeners to listen. It's
to
literally
Josh.
your name.
He needs
it's your
this.
title.
Listen.
Listener. That's all.
Got me.
That's all I'm saying. Okay. So yeah, no, we are super excited. It's been a while since we've done a guest episode of the podcast. I think it's just because Will and I have done nothing but talk about AI for the past, like, I don't know, our lives.
I made you
This
is distracting.
That's kind of where we're at. And Will's doing things. I don't know what else to do right now. Anyway, we're super excited though because some of you know we have talked about an app on the podcast several times called Topia. It's a super cool app that allows you to do this. This is what we're in right now. We're in Topia. It's a spatial kind of social platform environment that you can engage in, and that is quite taking off in education, which is super cool. Will and I did episodes on Topia. Oh my gosh, I lost the screen for it. There we go. Will and I did episodes on Topia. The first episode we ever did on Topia was episode 82, which is crazy to think that we are on episode like 200 something. So that's like nuts. That's over 100 episodes ago. So like anyway, we had discovered Topia during the COVID times, and we were looking for a cool kind of third space platform to highlight. We had highlighted a couple, but Topia really caught our attention, and we wanted to do it. And then the stars aligned. Will and I were at a conference as the podcast, and we just happened to bump into Topia at their stand, talked to a couple people, and next thing you know, we ended up getting connected with a very wonderful person, Daniel, who's this founder of Topia, and he came on the podcast back in episode 150 and blew our minds even more. We thought we understood Topia, and then he was like explaining everything. The app building you could do in Topia, which we're not really going to highlight here at this moment. They'll go back to episode 150 if you want to check out more of that, because actually, if I remember correctly, we did demo Topia on that episode a little bit more in detail. So anyway, all of that background is to say Daniel and his team reached out a little while ago and was like, hey, we got some cool stuff on Topia. We'd love to reconnect. And we were like, 100%, we'd love to reconnect. And so that's this episode. So we're super excited because in this episode, we are going to be talking to Daniel from Topia. And we decided what better way to open this episode than to be in Topia. You know, I feel like that's what we needed to do. If Will and I had thought ahead more, we would have set up an interview room to interview Daniel.
We could have just done the whole thing in Topia.
We could have done the whole thing, but we did not do that. Maybe a future idea.
Next time.
But before we jump into that, just a couple reminders. You can find us High Tech Podcast online. We are on the socials. And I'm killing time because I realized I don't have my page open with my notes for this part of the episode.
And here I am just trying to put some text on the screen. I'm like, I don't know how to use this darn
You're like,
thing.
I don't know how to do this thing.
There's going to be a way to type things on screen here.
We're almost there. We're like right there. There we go. Okay, got it. Okay, hey. Look, it says do a brief welcome, Josh. Okay, so all socials, you can find us at High Tech Podcast or at High Tech Pod. Also, emails at inbox at hightechpod.us, and you can go check out our website, hightechpod.us, where we post fun things like this to that website. So you can go check that out, hightechpod.us. Now, before we bring Daniel in, just because it's been a while since we talked about Topia, Will and I thought it'd be fun to like intro this and do our outro from Topia. So we're doing our intro from Topia. For those of you who don't know Topia, this is what it looks like. Your little fun characters. You can create your own world. This is kind of just a pre-stock world we created for this episode. But you can create like fully customized worlds. This is why it's blowing up in education. As Daniel will explain in this episode, he'll tell you a little bit about how they connect with non-brick and mortar schools very often, and just the cool dynamic of it. It's basically like a full social experience online that like Zoom wishes they knew how to do. That's basically the experience.
We
So
love
it's
Zoom
super
for what
cool.
it does, but
Yes,
Topia's
yeah.
here to fit a specific niche. And what I've just realized is I'm recording my screen and doing all this on one side of the device. Josh isn't going to be able to see the things I'm doing, so I have been doing some wild things while he's been talking.
Well, you
Sorry,
pinned the
listeners.
video. I saw that.
You saw
changed
that,
my
but you
screen
didn't
when
see
you
me
did
try
that.
to
Yeah.
build like comments on screen. You may not. You've seen
Oh,
me jump
okay.
around you, but you're not seeing
Yeah,
me like
see you.
zoom out.
I have
zoom
no
in.
idea what's happening. Yeah, so like real quick, just like you can walk around, you do stuff. What is the selling point of this? Okay, right here, real quick, is Will. When I walk away from you, I'm gonna disappear, so people aren't gonna be able to hear me talk.
Yep.
So like, just check this out. Ready? I walk away from Will.
This is what's called proximity chat. And while Josh walks away from me, we literally can't hear each other. But while he starts to come back to me, and oh, there he is on his skateboard, he comes right into proximity.
I'm gonna sit down.
Oh,
Yeah,
there you go. You've got all the emojis figured out in the actions.
Exactly.
I've got a little Land Rover here. This is
you do.
You got a skateboard, but I get to zoom
So
around.
the big selling point of like Topia is their proximity video tool. It's really cool. It's basically like what we just showed. When you walk up to somebody in the platform, your video tool just kicks on and you can start hearing them. What's really cool, Daniel explained a little bit this in the episode, but like presenters can do things like digital conferences, education. You can create lots of different worlds, which you can create like fully digital classrooms, environments, playgrounds, a whole bunch of stuff. That's super cool. So this is Topia. I think it's pretty cool. Real quick, Will and I thought we'd give you a tour of our little place. So, this is our little...
Let's go over here a little bit. So this is something... Oh, and Josh is going to have to keep up with me in my little Land Rover. This is something that I just added in as its own scene to the whole place. Like, I just dropped this in as a button. Now, all these trees are still here because I didn't delete anything. I just dropped this on top. But, like, this is kind of the fun whimsy that you can get. As you'll learn, there's a theme in this episode, and I believe that theme is delight. I think this is quite delightful.
Video?
There's a video?
Come closer.
Oh, no.
There's a video in here of water bubbles. So this is something that's really cool in Topia. We learned this in episode 150. You can embed like basically anything inside Topia and create like a proximity system for it. So like this is just a YouTube video they embedded in here. But like think about there's a lot of repercussions. There are more episodes coming about Topia because this episode with Daniel really re-inspired Will and I's passion for Topia and what they're doing. And so we finally found an excuse to not talk about AI for a while. So you may see some more Topia episodes coming up over the next bit. But yeah, it's a little YouTube video. I didn't realize that was here. We'll just kind of drop that in. It was a little template. Yeah. A little fun template.
All right, I'm gonna run away from you, and we'll run right into the interview. Right? I'm gonna zoom out, and I'm just gonna take off. So let's go talk to Daniel. Okay, folks, now that we're into the interview itself, welcome to the High Tech Podcast. Again, welcome back, Daniel. It has been a while. The last time you were with us was, I believe, episode 150, if Josh set me up correctly. And before that,
the Notion
database
database is spoken. It's episode 150. It's not even a question.
Was episode 82. Before that, we talked about Topia ourselves, but we're very excited to have you back and to kind of dig into what's new and how things have been going. Before that, though, how are you doing today? What's new in the life of Daniel?
I'm great. Yeah, I'm honored to be back. Thanks for having me. Three-peat, although, I guess it's only two with me actually being here, but, it's great to be back. Life's been good. The world's got a lot of noise going on, a lot of craziness, but, all is good over here in LA.
I like to think of the noise as opportunity, right? It's hopefully opportunity to improve the world and be participants in, I think, making it a more peaceful place. Now, besides 2025, we'll set that aside for a moment. Topia is doing a lot. So we've done a little bit of prep already. We've been chatting a bit here, getting some things prepared. But like last time, Josh and I spent some time with you and spent some time in Topia. In our world, it was kind of just this virtual gathering space. And it really seems like you've taken off, that this is going to be more than just Topia. We're growing. We're even making that stronger and better. I pulled a little Topia world up myself on the side. We'll see if we screen share it or not at some point. But like, it's pretty. It's still effective. It's still doing what it's meant to do. What's been happening though in the last year of Topia? Like, is it viral and we've got millions of users? Are we settling into education? Where are we going with it?
Yeah, so a lot has changed. A lot of performance improvements have happened over the last year. We've been working primarily focused in the education space and truly have become the embodiment of virtual campus and virtual playgrounds for virtual schools, right? And
Awesome.
so we're pretty aligned with like the alt education movement. So it's virtual schools, micro schools, homeschooling, ESAs, all of that whole parent choice. And Topia itself, the technology has improved a lot. We could talk about all the cool features and platform improvements, but yeah, that's what we're doing.
That's really awesome. I personally was homeschooled and cyber schooled. So I can imagine the ways that it could really support that kind of learning, that space for learning. One of the things that I think a lot of folks really latched on to Topia for in COVID was virtual learning. And then we very quickly kind of dropped virtual learning besides exceptions or besides certain things, in the broader space. Or maybe the public education space. But when I was homeschooled, when I was cyber schooled, I would have loved something like this instead of just Zoom or whatever the equivalent tool was back in the dark ages of cyber education.
It was Skype. No, sorry.
We don't talk about Skype. Why talk?
Sorry, that was my bad.
Before we go too far with Topia, while we're on like Topia broadly speaking, we're a little bit on this education space. So what does it look like in these K-12 or even higher ed spaces when Topia is adopted? Is it like folks are trying to use it for just classroom education or becoming maybe even like the virtual campus? Is there a sense for that?
Yeah, so we over the last 2 years have been primarily focused on helping kids that otherwise are not going to a brick and mortar facility still have a sense of belonging, right? And still have friends, have a social graph, be able to play games together and do homework together, and truly have an embodiment within a space that can serve as their campus. We sometimes refer to it as a playground. We actually are rolling out LTI 1.3. Cool. I know we're not getting into future stuff yet, but we're about a month away from LTI 1.3, which means that all the LMSs are now going to work with us. So Canvas and Schoology and not Google Classroom because they have their own standard, although we're building out for that as well. But
cool.
Now if a teacher wants to have class or a field trip or something that's more experiential, and think like Magic School Bus, right?
Yes.
If a teacher wants to be able to do the Magic School Bus, jumping out right from the LMS, now they can do that in a compliant way. And the core of what we're doing, the reason that we can do this with K through 12 is because what we've built is enterprise grade access control. So we're using what we've been doing is using these student information systems, right? So ClassLink or Clever or SAML or whatnot, right, directly into the SIS to provide strict access control based on grade, any attribute that the student might have. So, which school they belong to, if there's a bunch of different schools that are part of a system, which grade they're in by grade band, can be like which course they belong to. And so, you never have outsiders that are accessing these spaces, and you never have a ninth grader in a space with a second grader. And so that's kind of our bread and butter. Then moderation tools, safety, security, and then now we have a really solid foundation. We can put hundreds of kids in the same space, and we're building really delightful things, right? And games and learning activities, enabling people to vibe code different experiences, which we can talk about. We can talk about AI stuff. There's all sorts of cool stuff.
We'll come back to that one.
Okay, writing a note on vibe
yeah,
coding,
make sure we
I want to
note
come
that
back to that one. But
so is it still the case in these scenarios where I think I remember this from when you were on last time, because you guys were just starting to, at least you had just started to really get into this a bit more, or at least Will and I just were not aware, and you were making us aware of it at that point. Like, this is a scenario where you can have individual like Topia room. I forget exactly the terminology for it, but essentially like Topia rooms for each of the classrooms and things, and you're restricting down the access of people, so students can't just be like crossing into other areas in Topia, that type of thing.
Yeah, you can think of them as worlds or zones or spaces or rooms, and they can actually be a mix and match of all of these different things. You can connect them with portals. You can teleport within a single world to different spaces within the world. And ultimately, all of these different constructs enable different use cases. And so you can have the classroom, you can have the Magic School Bus field trip, or like go explore the Natural History Museum kind of experiences. And these can be created as templates and then given to teachers to then remix, right? So we have a whole remixing platform. We have things like inheritance, where you can have sort of like a parent world, and then down the tree, people can make modifications, and you can then modify things at the parent that trickle down to create a lot of power for the ability, for these schools, for different departments within a school. So a lot of capabilities around these kinds of things.
Oh, that's very cool. Somewhere an IT guy just like got super happy. He was like, I heard account, I heard structure.
Well, I can only imagine the functional infrastructure behind something to deliver that. But that you mentioned something I want to capture it real quick. You mentioned like size. You can like you kind of hinted at like these. What do you know? Like, what's the biggest room? Not only you could support, like what kind of world could you support? 500, 600, 200? I don't know. But like, do you also have like a record? Like, do you know the biggest room that's existed in Topia?
So every week now, pretty much we're hitting records. We're hitting all-time highs.
Wow.
We had our biggest, I think it was on Friday, we had, I think it was like 450, 500 kids concurrently in the same space. But every day, we have thousands concurrently across different worlds. And we'll have hundreds of worlds that have kids in them. Typically, the worlds will have somewhere between 10 and 40, but concurrent, right? But even right now, there's like 200 kids in one of the worlds, right? And that's constantly happening. And we have constructs where we'll put kids from different schools into shared spaces with parental consent, so it's not a COPPA issue. Sure. Those worlds typically have a lot more students. The school-specific worlds will have fewer, but there is maybe more learning-oriented activities because it's specific to a school, right?
Right.
And so each of these worlds, we have, again, hundreds, close to 1,000 worlds that are being used regularly. And each of them is slightly different purposes, whether it's the playground where it might have lots of kids in there, or it's more of a structured classroom. We also do a lot of like parent engagement events. So like Title I presentation where the principal is talking to a few hundred kids at a big school at once, right? In a more of a presentation style with an actual PowerPoint. Everybody can see them, right? We break our proximity chat and we do broadcasting. We have basically this hybrid system where you can broadcast or you can do proximity, or you can do both at the same time, right? So the parents are able to connect to each other through proximity, but they're receiving the broadcast from the principal. Then when that broadcast is over, now the parents are in the space and they can run around and they can look at their students' presentations and things that have been created as part of the educational experience. And so we do those kinds of things. We do science fairs as well, which are more like, you have the older kids that are creating, they have their own booth and they're doing this sort of like structured demonstration of a class project that they did, a science project. And then the younger kids are going through and grading them. And, you have advisors running through and learning coaches. And so we have those kinds of experiences as well. There's a lot of mix and match.
Josh, have you ever wanted to go back to school? Like, I'm listening to him describe
I just want to sign up for Topia again. It's been a little bit since I've used Topia. I have so many off interview questions for selfish reasons for my own work scenario. Because like we're dealing with a lot of like trying to solve third space issues for online, like big higher ed online programs where you're struggling to connect students. And I'm sure you guys are experiencing that like as a solution, or at least helping in that. That's probably why you fit so well with the non-brick mortar stuff, because that's a big struggle point in the online education space, is like, how do we provide students this accessible education, but give them a place to connect and have that relationship that most students will often articulate as missing in some form or fashion from an online experience.
Yeah. So look, that sense of belonging is really critical to the to educational outcomes. The other thing I would point out is that getting kids to actively participate, whether it's brick and mortar or virtual, is critical to their retention and to their outcomes and to their creativity and ultimately to their productivity within society, right? Because in society you have to actively participate, by and large, or at least the most productive people do. And it's very easy in virtual to passively consume, right? And anybody can imagine many of the, let's say, like video learning, continuing education stuff that folks have to do, where you can kind of like have it on one screen while you're watching a movie on the other, you're not really retaining any of that, right? And so in virtual education, you have the same problem. And a lot of kids that are attending alternative schools are, and especially not brick and mortar, and they don't have a teacher watching them, are not necessarily actively participating, right?
Yeah.
So what we are aiming to do, in addition to SEL and community and sense of belonging and homework help and peer support, in addition to all those things, it's helping kids go from passive consumers of learning to active participants in the learning, along with the teachers. And the outcomes, we think that we're going to be able to, that we're already seeing, the improvement in outcomes is profound.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I will very quickly put my history on blast, right? So I was first in Einstein Virtual Academy. The treasurer ran with the treasury, and so that school went under after 1 year. Then I was with Pennsylvania Virtual Charter School, and then I was with Pennsylvania Cyber Charter School, which I think is now Agora. And all three of them were designed for passive education. And whether or not it was intentional, that was the output. When I went through all that learning, right, I could have put it on this screen and just done whatever I wanted to on this screen. There was nothing that made me engage actively in the learning process besides quizzes, and there was no accountability in those days. Whether it was the open book in front of me or whatever I wanted to do, I got through every quiz like that. And that kind of learning isn't learning. Right? That's what I went through from the 4th to the 12th grade. That's 8 years of learning. And yet I went on to study education, get my master's in it. Like, it's something I care about. And I think in some ways I responded or reacted to that upbringing. But to hear a Topia trying to step into that space and say, let's do better. And not only let's do better, but practically let's start with a video game. Like, everything I see in the platform, the things you're talking to us about, how you engage with one another, these are the building blocks of World of Warcraft. These are the building blocks of League of Legends. Some of these top-notch games already act that way, where you can engage with each other in proximity, or you can get not necessarily like announcements from one god level persona or something like that, right? But like, you're in that universe and you get to do everything within it. It's every step of the way what you've been explaining to us about Topia. I just love hearing what this is possible what's possible doing with this tool. And I know of so many folks I want to send this episode and our previous episodes to in education, be like, start researching, get on this. Like, there's so much opportunity here.
Yeah, Will, I think the reality is that you're mentioning these video games that are engaging kids, and they've created a new medium. Roblox, another great example, right? That's where all the kids want to be. So our aim is really to meet kids where they want to be with a platform that is not a game, right? There are gaming elements. That's the part that meets them where they want to be. Right. But we're just as much a communication tool. We're just as much a learning tool. And we're doing it all in a very safe, secure access control, enterprise access control kind of way. These are not open networks where all sorts of, the stuff that happens in Roblox is not possible in this platform, right?
Yeah.
Yet, it's where the kids are showing up, right? It's where they want to synchronously learn and interact with their peers and interact with the teacher and be the first one. We're hearing anecdotes of the kids that were the hardest to track down that never showed up for synchronous. They were just purely passively consuming, are now sitting there waiting for class to open, right? Because we have open-close schedules. You can't get in before the teacher arrives. We have chaperone mode. We have all these things. So they're just sitting there waiting, clicking over and over and over. And we can see in the analytics for 20 minutes. Yeah, they're waiting to get in, and then it opens, and there they are.
That's hilarious.
I'm just thinking of the things that I go to my learning management systems audit trail for, and it's not that. Like, Johnny's just sitting there, click, 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 click. I'm looking at the audit trail like, who messed up, In
my years of an LMS admin, I never once was like, oh, look, that student's just clicking, so excited to get into there. That's super cool. I'm curious, what do you find, on that anecdote, what do you find about in the platform of Topia that's just encouraging that kind of engagement? What are the students liking the most about it out of what you guys are engaging with? I don't know if you guys have looked into that or seen. Obviously, you got anecdotes and analytics of Jimmy over there clicking on enter over and over again. But yeah.
Yeah, Josh, the It's a great question. The real answer is that it depends. Every student's a little different. They engage with different things. It also depends on their age, right? So what we find is that younger kids, so K through 5, really K through 2, but K through 5, they're running around in the platform using the proximity chat to play tag with each other. They want to talk to the teacher. They want to just like talk to their best friend that they had never actually talked to outside of the classroom experience, right? But now they get to, and they get to show and tell, and they get to do little kid things that that are really engaging for them. They don't need a ton of structure in the experience. Whereas, the other end of the spectrum, we have high schoolers. They want more structured learning experiences, higher fidelity games. They want to be able to formally do homework together. They want Miro and Padlet, which we can integrate any third-party app right into the space as part of a learning journey, and it's a collaboration, group projects. The high schoolers want that, right? And then 6 through 8 is kind of like the sweet spot between the two. And but each kid is also different, right? And a lot of these spaces have a lot of optionality. So if you want to do homework together, great. You go over to this space, you go to the library. If you want to play music together and play like Plank or play on the keyboard collaboratively as a multiplayer, music learning game, go to the music space. If you want to play chess, go over to the chessboard, one of the many chessboards that's in the world. If you want to play Connect 4, do that. If you want to play other games, they're all around the perimeter. And so we find that each kid is different. We sort of try to cater to all of them by providing a bunch of different options, all within one space. Mm-hmm. And the great thing about the platform is, just like in real life, you can move between experiences. You can move between conversations. That's kind of the whole point. So it's pretty low risk, and it encourages kids to experiment with different things and try chess, right? You don't have to overly commit to that. You just walk up to it, and now you can play, or you can watch, and you can talk to the kids that are playing and learn about it that way, and then you get to play. So that's what's happening.
That's super cool. That's interesting because I think that attests to the flexibility that your platform had. I mean, I remember as Will and I were digging into it more, and it was why we were so excited like a year ago when we connected, I think, with somebody from your team at a conference and then ended up connecting with you, is because there was just like this magic to being able to like just walk around in Topia up to things and like things just start happening and like be able to walk up to. It's funny you talk about the tag thing. Like that's coworkers when we were first testing Topia, because we have like my team has a remote team, so we were using it for a little while to kind of test out some ideas and some things that we're going to do. And that's like the first thing as adults that they did, which was like, oh, look, I can chase you down and my camera will appear. This is hilarious. Like that was it's just funny that you mentioned that. It's kind of a funny thing.
And decorating your desks. I recall that specifically.
Oh, yes.
I still went to their rooms.
We had a student worker. We were using Topia for a little while before like our team dynamic changed. And we had a student worker who would she was no longer on the team. She would decorate the Topia area even after she left. Like she thought it was like the coolest thing ever. Anyway, that's super great. I want to jump back to something you brought up a second ago. The vibe coding and some of the AI functionality. Will and I would love to hear about this, mainly because as we keep joking on the podcast, all of our listeners, we'll stop talking about AI when you guys stop listening to it. That's basically the big conversation everybody wants to talk about. So I'm curious, both on the vibe coding, but also just AI in general, how has that impacted Topia? Where have you guys been kind of digging into that or leveraging that?
AI within education is a tricky subject, let's say, right? As I'm sure you guys know, and as probably people are talking about in the High Tech podcast all the time. So we have a lot of capabilities that we're not necessarily bringing to production or not putting in front of kids. Things like chatbots, for example, multiplayer, group ability, the ability for groups to talk to one bot in one session. That's really powerful, but there's not necessarily the demand from the schools within school space or K-12 zone to have this available to students. So a lot of what we're doing is actually empowering administrators, teachers, our own team. So things like vibe coding, we have a set of developer tools that we refer to as an SDK that you can build experiences. So you mentioned design a desk. I think when you guys were in Topia.io a year ago or 2 years ago, we didn't have a formal like design a desk app. Yeah. We now have that. We have design a locker, design a desk. We have dozens of apps that we've created and that others have created with our SDK.
Okay.
But now we're entering the era of using things like Claude Code, for those that are familiar with that, to be able to, that has full awareness, contextual awareness of how our SDK works, how the proximity and spatial connections within our worlds work, and we're able to now generate apps in a couple days, right?
What?
And it used to take us like a month to create an app. Now it's like down to a couple days, and it's just like, what can you imagine? What do you want to exist? What kind of social experiences do you want in here? You know, so we just vibe coded a garden app that we haven't released yet, right? That's our first of these that we're pretty fired up about.
Okay.
And it's coming soon, and that'll come to you know, that's gonna go to K-12 zone, go to school space. What's funny is we're not actually putting a lot of these into Topia. So just to be clear, Topia.io is kind of like our consumer sandbox, right? So if you guys go as adults and you want to create a world, you want to play around with the SDK, you would do that in Topia.io. You can get started for free. We have up to 50 people at a time for free. So, you know, it's kind of like, again, just this big sandbox. If you're a kid, you're not allowed to use Topia.
Yeah.
Topia.io. Topia is now like the technology for schools. They use schoolspace.io. All right. And then one school system in particular, which is Stride, has a white label deployment of our technology called K-12 Zone. Cool. So that's where kids are in school space or K-12 Zone, not in Topia. But anybody that wants to play around with the SDK and play around with vibe coding with the SDK can do that in Topia.
Okay. Very cool.
I already wrote the idea down. Josh and I are going to do an episode just doing that. We're going to, I think that'd be so much fun, even just for the High Tech Podcast, like do the whole episode in Topia and mess around with apps. Because we've been doing episodes recently because we can't get away from AI, not only in the podcast, but in our day-to-day jobs. And so we'll come back to like, you know, a planning night, like, oh, dude, listen to what I just did at work because of blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, if we could just do that in Topia for like a full episode, and make a garden.
We're
like,
also large fans of Claude. So that is another winner.
Well, also, you know, if you build any third-party website, let's say, or interactive app, you know, using Topia as a discovery platform. So we have people now that are basically putting their portfolio of vibe-coded apps that have nothing to do with our SDK, but you can embed any third-party website or tool into the space, and it's kind of like this portfolio of stuff, and it's automatically, essentially, multiplayer, right? If you use our SDK, you can truly make your app multiplayer, but you're on video chat with the people that walk up to your embedded app, and you're able to now do the thing on video chat, which is pretty novel and unique, right? Like, how else do you make all these cool things? Where do you even put them?
So someone could make a 3D art gallery in Topia, because
100%.
Not only could you just upload the image, but if they wanted to make some sort of app where it's like an interactable image, or like you make little rooms, or like they could make little apps to like host the media differently, but they could just put it all in a Topia world to navigate around and engage with it.
Exactly. And then another example of like using SDKs, we have a whole inventory system that so you can like save currency natively inside of, and we have data storage, right? So you don't need to like roll a third-party database. You just save it as data objects, and you can add currency, you can add items, you can trade them, you know, all sorts of stuff like that.
That's crazy. Sorry, my brain is hurting a little bit trying to process all the different uses.
Mine's actually waking up for the first time today.
Will's like, I've been asleep all day. Now I'm super psyched. I'm curious, Daniel. We've talked a lot about the education side. With the High Tech Podcast, we've spawned a little bit broader now over the last year or so outside of the education. How, on the Topia.io side, on the consumer side, what's the most common use case you guys are seeing with Topia? Like, obviously I'm sure you've got a bunch of different examples, but I'm curious what you guys are seeing over there.
There's tons of stuff going on. One of the most interesting things has been learning and development conferences, which is education adjacent.
Okay.
But more for adults and more like discrete events that happen, right? And professional development, learning and development within a company, you know, great use cases. And you know, again, you can have like panels doing broadcasts. So you'll have like 3 people on stage doing a panel. People can walk up to the hot mics and they go on broadcast, and now they're asking Q&A. And then, you know, afterwards there's like a dance floor, and there's posters everywhere, and there's interactive exhibits, and so that's been really interesting. A lot of what people heard, trying to do. Some of our proximity chat competitors are focused on virtual office, which is the use case that you guys were kind of doing.
Yeah,
right?
we were using for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's actually the number one use case for Topia.io.
Okay.
Of just like daily users, and we've had an explosion of usage in Topia.io over the last month.
Okay.
For whatever reason, one of our competitors got rid of their free plan. We basically have this huge free plan. So that's been really interesting. But we're really focused on education. We're building products and features for education, and then it's kind of all like trickling over to Topia.io once we're ready to release them into the wild, essentially.
Okay.
But yeah, so virtual office, kind of interesting. I think there's a future there, but for me, I'm always been a little skeptical of that being like the best use case, right? Like the product market fit, the delight we see from kids using the platform, and the real problems that it solves around having community, being able to actually like have friends, right? Doing it in a safe, secure way. There's just no better use case than that. And also even like the mission in education of helping kids thrive.
Yeah.
There's really no better thing that you can do with a company, I don't think.
Yeah. You've sold. You've bought.
You make Will tear up
me
over there. I don't know. That's the.
It's been an emotional. No, I'm joking. That's just really awesome to hear, and I've already looked up one or two of the competitors, and I think I found the one, because it's in my experience, it's a pretty niche space, right? You are not competing with Zoom. That's my opinion. I'm not saying you are or aren't, right? But like when I think about what Zoom tries to accomplish from a kind of a corporate or even an educational standpoint, it's so much more put people in the boxes that we can get them in and then get that communication to and fro. Yes, there is a big communication component to Topia, but like you're world building. You're trying to set a space for folks to engage. And so like Josh mentioned earlier, that can just be a third space. Like I'm thinking of selling this, not selling, but like kind of joking around with my team next week, do a team meeting in this just to have some fun, because we usually do like 30 minutes of team building and an hour call. Like this would be a great thing to just mess around with and play some games in. But outside of that, go ahead.
I would say, we are a social experience platform. That's what it is.
Right.
Okay.
And that I think is like, it stands out when I'm used to being in one of the box communication tools, 5 days a week, right? 8 to 5. I'm in Zoom, Teams, Huddle, like whatever those tools are that try to get you this box one-to-one space. And it's like, it's not the same. I have had Topia up on my side screen this whole time just to kind of like you've mentioned a few times, enjoy it. I'm feeling the delight just being in the world, clicking around and like remembering. Hey, like you're mentioning SDKs. I brought up Discover. I was seeing some of the SDKs. I'm looking at the building mode and like I could take trees out and stuff. It's just
there's a jukebox, right? Like that's a pretty easy one. And you walk up and the thing, the YouTube video starts playing, and you can add tracks in and you can remove them and you can go next. Simple things like that actually are a cool experience when you're hanging out with people, right? As opposed to just like we're a bunch of boxes on a grid. That's not an experience, right? Yeah. That is just communication. That is a structured meeting.
Yes.
And I think, and there's a place for that. It's super useful, and it enables us to have remote work. And it's completely transformed human capabilities around work, and it's the future of work even more and more, right? However, it's not that experiential, and it doesn't really help you create the glue, the bonds between each other, right? Based on meaningful shared experiences. And that's what we're trying to do is really help you have these meaningful shared connections, experiences that are foundational to friendships and relationships, and really strengthen the bonds that make up a community, and that help you thrive in the moment and carry forward into the future based on these shared experiences.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's why you guys fit. Not that you need any more support of why the decisions you guys have made in the direction. I just want to attest to. I think that's why it's really cool that you guys have leaned into education more, because I think, like to your point, the probably like the remote work stuff, why that doesn't hit at the same spot is because, one, it's not as mission driven as what you've been talking about with education, but also education needs to be so much more experiential than like the remote work environment to even a certain extent, right? Like even our team who tested it, we really love Topia. really got to a dynamic with our team where it was like, well, we really just need a meeting tool. We don't need as much as I had more fun with Topia than anybody else on my team. That was the dynamic difference. But like in education, I really see the direct needs for where like that type of experience to like you said, kind of social platform. This is really kind of meeting, in my opinion, and maybe I'm wrong on this, but meeting kind of like a middle ground between kind of where the LMS and the video conferencing tools that are applied in an online education space just don't. That's what they're missing, right? You've got some kind of like environment, you've got this kind of video call, but like they're not like integrated to the point of an experience where people are actually being able to do a lot of things. And then you add on top of that all the other stuff you guys have in there to build that experience. And like I've said before when you were on before, that I really like is just the integration, how easy it is to just pull in other things. I think that's what's just so exciting about Topia. It's like there's just so many things all in one area that make it more of a seamless experience for like a student who's trying to engage with students and instructors and teachers all the same. So yeah, that's super cool.
You mentioned before we got started, I wondered how we might get to this, so I'm just going to go straight for it. You mentioned kind of this approach on your side of like measuring not only impact but delight. Now I'm assuming impact is things like Jimmy clicking 20 times to get to a course, but also like, you know, how many people are using it, how well they're using it, how long they're using it. That's impact. I think we can all kind of visualize what ROI looks like, not just even on a financial level, but like engagement, perseverance, keeping people in the platform, etc. What is delight? You've even said it a few times through this. What is delight for Topia, for you, for the community?
Amazing. So, you know, I think of it in three different buckets, right? There's like analytics, which is the clicks and the dwell time and what did they interact with. Then there's the impact, which is more like longitudinal outcome information, right? And driving re-enrollments and those sorts of things, right? Attendance, like what percentage of the students are actually synchronously engaged? What kind of student engagement are we looking at here versus what there was before? And so, you know, that's more like the ROI tracking. And then the delight is, by and large, has been mostly qualitative for us. So we get a lot of feedback. We have suggestion boxes in the worlds, for example, that kids can just throw random comments into, and we get hundreds of them every day. Some days, right? Usually, I mean, it's at least, we get like dozens and dozens, sometimes hundreds each day. And it's a lot of delight. And it's a lot of feature requests for more delightful stuff. Like, I love this thing. I would like more, right? Especially early on, it was like, I'm finally able to hang out with my best friend. Like, what an amazing thing, right? I had this best friend. I've never actually hung out with her before, right? Now I can. And so, it's been really meaningful and beautiful to see that sort of delight. And then we hear about it from the parents. We hear about it from teachers. And teachers that are able to connect with their students in ways that they never were able to before. Because it was very transactional. In something like a Zoom, it's a pretty transactional relationship. We're teaching the class. It's structured. It's one-to-many. You raise your hand. I call on you. You ask a question or you answer something. It's a lot of transactions, and it's a lot of like muting everybody. And it's not that much play. Now you try to introduce play, but you're doing it within a structured meeting environment. Now look at something like School Space. And the whole thing is play, right? It's starting with play and then layering in learning. And the teachers are in the spaces and they're running around talking to the kids, and they're doing this from a place of play, not from like structured classroom. And so we get a lot of feedback from teachers about how transformative this has been with regard to their relationship with the kids. And then the final piece is really the parents, right? And we hear over and over again how excited their kids are about what they're able to do now, what they have access to. And one of the interesting things for virtual schools is that the younger kids, the parent choice is really in play. When you're younger than like 6th grade, it's kind of whatever the parent is choosing is where the kid is going, right? When you look to middle school and high school, it becomes more student choice. And so that's a dynamic here as well. But what's interesting is, the parents love this as much as the kids do.
Yeah.
In many regards, and they certainly can see the palpable excitement, and they'd rather the kids be spending their time in school space or K-12 zone than in Roblox, right?
Yeah.
Which is just this open network, and that's where the kids were, and now they're supplementing that time with these more education and learning oriented, and certainly safer and more secure, integrated with the SIS. So they're thrilled about that.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah. I love that as a business. There's a business, of course. Still, one of these top 3 priorities is delight, something affective, something qualitative, and that's that feedback from you of that, it's hitting at every level. The teachers experiencing the delight, the students experiencing the delight, the parents experiencing the delight. And I know if I just kind of gave this to my office group, for a weekly catch up or something like that, we'd all be delighted. It's just it. I love looking at it because it does make me think, the worlds and the templates and stuff makes me think of Where's Waldo, simpleness to that kind of gameplay, just enjoying a nice image. Where's Waldo? You're trying to enjoy and take it in. It's really a lovely tool and a lovely experience. So I really appreciate that. This is just awesome. I really appreciate this, Daniel, and all the time you've taken with us and giving us this back side of experience of what's going on with Topia. What should people do to get started? Try it out. Just head over to topia.io. How's it really get them going?
Yeah, look, if you're an educator, you should check out Schoolspace. Schoolspace.io. We're in the Clever marketplace. We got ClassLink. We're in Canvas, right? So there's a lot of different ways to engage and bring students in and try it out. And my team, we have a small but mighty team of complete superstars, and we'd be happy. Anybody on my team, would be happy to walk you through it, give you a demo. So we love talking to educators and showing it off, and frankly, delighting them. And then if you're not an educator and you're not in education, you just want to try it out and go into our consumer sandbox, Topia.io. You can create a free world. And if you're an adult educator and you want to just try that out, feel free to go create a free world in Topia.io. Again, happy to give you a walkthrough there, give you a sandbox. We love showing this off.
Okay.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much. Josh and I are going to take a moment here in just a second to wrap up the episode, but we really appreciate you joining us, and we hope to have you back for a 4-peat. Can't have don't do this one, right?
Thanks for having me, guys. Really, it's a blast every time.
All right, folks, that was a lot of fun talking with Daniel, and we're back with just a little bit more fun here in this Topia world. Josh and I have moved on to our own little recording studio in this world here, and we're having a couple of laughs as we wind down this episode. That was just awesome. Hearing from Daniel about how things have continued to grow with Topia and how they're reinforcing their approach to learning specifically as a positive thing, right? Some of those ideas, of course, we're hearing about the technical capacity and what's possible, and it's so cool this can scale and take hundreds of people at once. Oh, cool. And yet Daniel still comes back to that delight concept that we want the students, we want the parents, we want the teachers to enjoy this experience and to want to do it. And I can't think, maybe I could come up with 1 or 2 examples, but I really can't think across my entire educational experience anytime where I sat there with my mouse and was just like, hey, open the class,
Yeah.
the student he's saying, sitting there clicking away, trying to get into class, that boggles my mind. So clearly they're doing something that's working, especially in the K-12 space. But now let's see, what can it do, if we go to higher ed and other interesting areas for use. I am going to make my team try and play around with this next week in a corporate context, just for an office meeting. But
Yeah, I think we both knew we love this tool, and it's been a while since we've talked to Daniel or actually really just looked at Topia in a while. And I think their passion behind what they're trying to do, which is create this experience and really connect people in areas that struggle to connect in education, I think is important. And he said it really well, right? The connection and the thriving is huge when it comes to motivation and achieving goals, right? Students, when they're not motivated, when they are not enjoying the experience, right? That undercuts the ability for the student to meet the goals of the course or the the semester or whatever that may look like, right? So I think them coming into a place and offering this kind of dynamic environment that meets a lot of needs. I think it's like, I want to highlight this because we didn't highlight this with while Daniel was talking, because I wanted to just let him talk because he has so much to share about what Topia is. Like, if you're watching this, you're like, okay, it's cool. It's like an Avatar thing you can watch up into video called. Like, think of everything that's happening in this software. Like, it's crazy. Like, the fact that you can walk up to each other, your video kicks on, you could be doing that while another presenter's going on. You can embed resources inside of here, like videos and other resources. Like, that stuff is nuts. Like, that's crazy. It's not to have that all in one environment in a place that feels more human in a tech world where we're moving to tech that's less human in some ways, I think is really cool. And so I think that's really powerful when it comes to what Topia is trying to do. And I was not just joking about like my interest from aside from higher ed. Like we were talking after the interview, like I'm very interested to see how this could maybe change online education in ways that we've currently struggling to figure out how to do effectively, which is create this environment where people can feel connected, they can have fun connecting with each other, but they can also learn and engage. And then just the fact that all the apps and stuff that you can build inside of this tool, like, it is just crazy. We can't talk about this tool enough. Like, we joke about it on the podcast all the time. One of the advantages of us not being sponsored by a lot of things is that
we can talk about anything.
We can talk about anything. And we genuinely are really passionate about what Topia is doing. And you can see it in Daniel. His passion is not about yes, he wants to make money, he wants to make a living, but like his passion is clearly, it came out when he was talking about like his passion about education.
Yeah.
The mission of like meeting those students where they're at, helping them learn, helping them thrive. Like, it's very clear that like this team of 20 really cares about not just making something cool, but making something that's actually going to change people's lives. And so like this is super cool. And I think this is why Topia is definitely worth something checking out. Whether you're in education, you're in a space where you need digital connection like this, I think Topia is absolutely a place to go check out and explore. And we definitely will be more on the podcast for sure.
You can't see this at the moment, Josh, because it's probably only on my screen, but I'm just bringing up for reference, folks. These are some of the SDKs that Daniel was talking about in the chat. You'll notice the first two are free. There are some that are paid, so it seems like this is kind of like an app and maker space. Like, it could be a space to get engaged with, build games, build things, and put them out there for free, sell them, etc. Alongside of all of the SDKs is like little scenes. There's also bigger things like worlds and maps and templates. So I can modify this world and see what's going on in it. I can build mode and delete things. Like, this is just a brief sprint through, but all the types of assets you can work with, all the types of pre-built scenes. That's that water scene that you saw a moment ago. I dropped that over there. So it's really cool. All of this is easily available. It's right in the platform. And of course, I know if you're going to reach out and you're interested in an educational K-12 context, you can lock this down. The end user, the student, is not going to be able to do all this fun stuff. They're going to be able to play the games and interact with you and do the learning experiences you build. But if you want to get building as the teacher and or the community builder, all these features are available for you. So I just showed them briefly. They're on screen. Feel free. Go to topia.io. Sign up today. If you reach out to them for more information, let them know we sent you. We love this. We love them. We want to continue to support them, support each other. So make sure you reach out and let them know, or reach out to us, inbox@hightechpod.us. We'll be able to get you information, get you set up, get you going. So this is Topia.
Yeah, also note on the episode page, just real quick, we will give links to the different types of access points. If you remember the episode, schoolspace.io is their main focus for educators. So if you're interested in this in an education standpoint, obviously you're going to want to check that space out as well. I can tell you from when we were talking to Daniel, I had it up on my site. And it definitely gives a little bit more information about how they're connecting specifically with education as opposed to just Topia.io. It's a little bit broader. So just make sure to check those out. We'll provide all those links and resources for you in the episode page.
All right, folks, this has been another episode of the High Tech Podcast. We thank you for joining us in this world-building experience. Until next time, we'll make sure you join us for some more Topia extravaganzas. I need to get my stuff up. So, until next time, we will continue empowering minds.
Embracing tech.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Buckle up, let's ride.